All right, so in this section, we will cover, I will give you an overview on Cube and the various deployment types that Cube enables. Cisco Unified Border Element Enterprise, otherwise known as Cube Enterprise, is Cisco's flagship session border controller. It is deployed at the edge of a premise based deployment, typically has been in existence for over 12, 13 years, deployed on the edge of the network, and it provides a demarcation between what we like to refer to as the customer's enterprise LAN segment and the service provider WAN segment. So it allows for SIP to SIP connectivity from the enterprise UC site to the service provider and vice versa. In this diagram, you're seeing a typical on-prem collaboration deployment with Cube, which utilizes the Cube T STD SKU. We will cover licensing in detail as well, and we will also provide you a review of some other deployment scenarios that Cube enables. So this is the most basic form of Cube deployment that you guys may be familiar with from previous recordings and in your deployments. Then chronologically, what we introduced next was known as the NanoCube offer. The NanoCube was a managed service provider offering on the select Cisco 800 series platform, where customers would be getting those 800 series boxes from their service provider, and the service provider would be hosting the call control within their environment. What would happen is that the customer will have SIP endpoints, and those SIP endpoints will register to the service provider call control via a line side SBC function, which used to be known as the NanoCube. NanoCube is no longer offered. It has been replaced with Cube line side, which is similar in function, but the licensing is completely different from what used to be the NanoCube licensing. The next deployment scenario that I want to cover over here is the Cube plus Unified SRST co-location. So now with iOS XE 16.7.1 or later, you can deploy Unified SRST 12.1 or higher, co-located with Cube on the branch side, where you will have SIP trunks for that particular branch terminated on Cube from a service provider. And in case WAN connectivity goes down to your data center, then that Cube will act as a unified SRST box for your SIP-based endpoints. Moving on, we will cover in today's session in detail, but we introduced the Cube Media Proxy. Cube Media Proxy at the launch addressed two challenges of the existing call recording architectures that are out there. The first one being whatever type of call recording option you choose to deploy, the only option that you had was for a single call, you could send the recorded media to a single recorder. Cube Media Proxy allows you to send media to up to 5 different recorders simultaneously for the same call. At the same time, it allows to record secure RTP sessions as well. So you can send to Cube Media Proxy an SRTP media, and it will duplicate that SRTP media and send it towards the recorder for storage and retrieval later on. Then around last year, last year meaning 2019, early 2019, we launched the WebEx calling, which is Cisco's cloud calling offer. And then the role that Cube plays in that is the local gateway. Basically, if you take a look at this, the WebEx calling is a cloud calling offer from Cisco, maintained and operated by Cisco, and partner manages the customer relationship. It's a fully featured cloud PBX, and from the customer perspective, you will have WebEx calling endpoints, which can be your WebEx Teams app, which can be your WebEx calling app, or the MPP phones. And these MPP phones register to the WebEx calling platform over the top. At the same time, there is a local gateway on the customer premises, and the role of the local gateway, which is basically a cube box for an all IP scenario, twofold. The first one, it gives the customer the ability to bring their own PSTN, utilize an existing PSTN option for these WebEx calling endpoints. And if the customer also has an existing IPPBX deployment, such as Cisco UC Manager, so for Cisco UC Manager endpoints to communicate with WebEx calling endpoints, that communication has to go through local gateway. So the local gateway registers to the WebEx calling platform as well, just like the WebEx calling endpoints. And since all communication is going over the top, it is secured using TLS for SIP transport and SRTP for media. WebEx Edge Audio gives customers the ability to have a direct connectivity to the WebEx Meetings cloud and be able to utilize meeting calls over the internet without going through the PSTN. This WebEx Edge Audio was initially launched with Cisco Expressway, and now Cube is supported for the WebEx Edge Audio solution, both for the dial back and call in option for both of these calls, along with Cube HA for active standby kind of deployment. This support was added in Cube release iOS XE 16.12.2. Cube is an integral component of the Cisco UCM cloud offer as well. So one of the permutation that you're seeing in this diagram is that again, the UCM cloud, which is a cloud calling instance, is hosted in Cisco data center, and then the customer premises securely connects to the UCM cloud, and then they can deploy Cube as a local gateway on the customer premises to enable bring your own PSTN option. We enabled Cube high availability support for local gateway, meaning Cube HA as local gateway is supported for WebEx calling. Cube HA is basically a pair of cubes operating as an active standby box utilizing the redundancy group infrastructure protocol, RG infra protocol, whereby the interfaces have virtual IP address. And then those virtual IP address are the ones that the outside entities communicate with Cube using or hear from. So all communication to and from the Cube HA pair happens using the virtual IP address, and to the outside entity, they do not know you're running two different boxes. In case the active goes down, the standby takes over, preserving both signaling and media in real time. So Cube HA as local gateway is supported from iOS XE 16.12.2 for the ISR 4K and VQ series platforms. I would like to bring your attention to the Cisco Interoperability Portal. The Cisco Interoperability Portal basically hosts all the application nodes which we get from testing with TechVision. And what happens is that we have a Cisco Cube service provider test plan, and then we also utilize test plans from various different IPPBX vendors such as Microsoft Teams for direct routing. And what we do is we run tests in the Tech Vision lab. We document the results, what works, what does not work in the form of an application note, and we include all the configuration, both Cube and the IPPBX. Most of our on-premise testing happens with Cisco UC Manager, and our cloud calling testing happens with WebEx calling. But as I mentioned, we also do it with third parties such as Microsoft Teams, Link, Skype for Business, and we publish those application notes on the interoperability portal as and when the testing is completed and the results are documented in the application node. Okay. Very recently, we enabled Cube support for Microsoft Teams direct routing. Cube is now a certified session border controller in the Microsoft Teams direct routing offer. What we support as of this recording is that Cube is deployed on the customer side to provide a direct route to PSTN. Again, you can see the Teams client communicate and registers with the Microsoft Office 365 or the phone system, or also known as Microsoft Teams directly. And when they want to make a PSTN call utilizing an on-premise PSTN option, Microsoft Teams will send that request to Cube, and then Cube will send that request to the service provider. Keep in mind that the option as of this recording that's live is with media bypass disabled, meaning media will always traverse from the Teams to the cloud media processor as of this recording, and it will always flow through Cube. We are working in process, and in the next 4 to 6 weeks, we will be publishing the configuration for media bypass enabled, otherwise known as the local media bypass option, Cube HA for Microsoft Teams direct routing, and then lastly the UCM interop. All these three options are work in progress and should be available sometime towards the beginning of October. Okay. When it comes to the Cube product portfolio, Cube has been part of the Cisco ISR series platform for well over a decade, starting with the 26, 36, 3700 series, then the 28, 3800 series, what used to be known as the ISR G1, and then 29, 3900 series on ISR G2. We no longer develop software for ISR G2 for Cube with respect to newer features, but we are still providing maintenance releases. What this slide shows is the current Cube Enterprise product portfolio, and that at the very low end, we start with the ISR 1100 series, then the flagship session board, the flagship platform on which Cube is run is the ISR 4000 series, which now also includes support on the ISR 4461 as of iOS XE 17.2.1. We also support Cube virtually in the form of Cube running on CSR. CSR is the virtual router that is known as the vCube option that has been supported from iOS XC release 3.15. And on the high end, we have the ASR 1000 series platforms. A couple of changes. We do support Cube with ASR 1006X along with RP3, ESP40, and ESP100 starting iOS XC 16.6. iOS XE 17.x, the iOS XE team, the platform team no longer supports ESP20 as of iOS XE 17. Or later release. So keep that in mind if you have an existing deployment. The last supported iOS XE release for ESP20 is iOS XE 16.12. This graph basically shows the calls per second versus active concurrent voice call capacity that we have for various different platforms. It's not to scale. We will cover that in detail in the sizing section of the presentation today. From Cube software release standpoint, Cube is embedded into the iOS XE code, meaning if you want to get to a certain Cube version, you have to upgrade, downgrade the iOS XE release. We still follow the 3 release cycle: July, March, and November. So March, July, and November. July releases are the ones we like to refer to as the long-lived releases. The latest one is Cube version 14.0 that is part of iOS XE 17.3.1, which just came out as of this recording. However, the most recommended release that customers are using in the field are iOS XE 16.9.5 and 16.12.4 as of the recording. So those 16.12.4 is the one I would recommend for all Cube deployments, whether prem or cloud, something to consider.